All right, so today we had a little bit of a secret mission, and part of that secret mission was figuring out some information and using some ratios to ultimately calculate a time it would take to travel a certain distance after going to a couple points. So it can be a little bit tricky, but I wanted to just do one example. For your homework, you had to make two missions of your own. So we can see I've started up by writing a mission. I didn't include too much spy stuff in it, just kind of the main deal. Start at the Kennedy Center, travel to the Lincoln Memorial, and then go back to the back of the White House. So if we look at our map, you just have to choose a couple of things. So I picked that. So I looked down here at the key to find the places, and just kind of went from C to here down to D, and then went up to the back of the White House. And then I went through and I measured each of those, and I used centimeters to do that. So I just kind of measured about, okay. And if you have to do a little bit of rounding, that's okay. But most stuff should be like zero, like wholes or halves. So then I found all that out, and that's going to tell me how many centimeters it's going to take. So right here, I would just kind of write that out. I had 1.5 plus 3. I want to make sure I line up my decimals. 1, 4, 1.5, and 1. And so that adds up to 12. So we have 12 centimeters. So that's the distance in centimeters that it would be. So now it's a matter of using a bunch of ratios to calculate then how many feet that is, to calculate then transfer from feet to miles, and then turn from miles and to see how much time it would actually take to walk it. So I'm going to use the ratios that I had in my thing. So first was distance in feet in real life. So we need to convert 12 centimeters to feet. Now this was based on the scale, which some of you guys figured out. That was kind of a clue in here. If the reflecting pool is 2,000 feet, so that means from here to here was 2,000 feet, which meant, and we measured that as 3 centimeters. So we could write this up here, even this is our ratio, 3 centimeters to 2,000 feet. Okay, so I'm going to use, that's going to be my first ratio. So I start with 12. So I have 12 centimeters, and I want to know how many feet is that going to be if 3 centimeters is equal to 2,000 feet. So you'd see I'm matching up my units. I'm using the ratio that I know to be true, and then having what I want and what I want to find out. So at this point, I just need to figure out, okay, so how did this turn into this? How many 3s went into 12? We would know that this would be like 3 times 4. So we're kind of working backwards here. So if I'm multiplying the top by 4 to figure out what's underneath and make an equivalent ratio, I have to multiply this also by 4. Okay, so I multiply this by 4. So I can see again, I start by saying, what's 12? How does that go to the 3? 12 divided by 3 is 4, so that means it's 3 times 4 is 12, so I do the same thing. So if it then did 2,000 feet times 4, and that's going to give us 8,000 feet is our distance. So if we used our scale ratio to convert our centimeters into 8,000 feet. So we've got that, so we've got the distance in feet. Now we want to convert that into miles. Now we can also look at our original map, and that reminded us that a mile is 5,280 feet. So I'm going to write that up here. That sounds like an important ratio. 1 mile equals 5, or I should put it as a ratio. 1 mile is to 5,280 feet. Okay, so I'm going to take my feet that I had, 8,000, and put that over the amount of miles. That's what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to set that equal to my ratio. Now remember, when you're setting it, the units are going to tell you where to go. Keep the units the same. So we got feet on top, we'll do feet on top. 5,280. Miles on bottom, miles on bottom. Now, I have to figure out how many 5,280s go into 8,000, because I want to figure out this times what equals that. So I'm going to have to do some division. So I'll do 8,000. I can't really. This one I could do in my head. This I can't really. So I'll do 8,000 divided by 5,280. And I can definitely use a calculator for this. So I'll just do 8,000 divided by 5,000. Oops. 8,000 divided by 5,280 equals 1.515. Now I'm going to round it to make my life easier. So I'm just going to say, round to the nearest hundredth, say 1.52. So that means it's 1.52 times bigger. So if I'm multiplying this top by 1.52, if I'm using my ratio, I can always say, well, it's the same thing. I have to multiply this by 1.52, which is pretty easy because it's just 1 times 1.52. So 1.1 times 1.52 equals 1.52. So that means 1.52 miles. Right? That's how far 8,000 feet is. So then the last thing I need to complete, we're almost done. I just need to figure out how much time it's going to take. Because right in the secret mission, it talks about how you have to make sure you convey the information of how exactly the precise time. So we're going to figure out exactly how much time it would take. And according to this, it told us that it's going to take 18 minutes to walk 1 mile. Seems kind of slow, but that's what they're telling us. So we're going to put 18 minutes to 1 mile. Okay, so again, we're seeing everything's a ratio. Everything's about how something compares to something else. So we had 1.52 miles. So I'm going to say 1.52 miles. I'm going to put it over, I want to know how many minutes. It's getting a little bit tight in here. And then, so I'm going to set it up with my ratio on the other side. Equivalent ratio. We've got 18 minutes and 1 mile. Miles on top, so I'm going to keep the miles on top. 1 mile. Minutes right there, so I'm going to match the minutes up on the bottom. 18 minutes. Now it's a matter of saying, how did this turn into that? Because I want to do the same thing to the bottom. So think about it for a second. How would you turn that into that? You're just multiplying by 1.52. So I have to do the same thing by here. So I'll do 18 times 1.52. Again, as I said, 4 calculators are totally fine on this assignment. You can do the practice with the decimal if you want to, but you don't have to. And that's going to equal 27.36. And our units right here, that's minutes. All right, so if we wanted to convert that to seconds, we could do 0.36 of a minute, which is 0.36 times 60 seconds. So that'd be 21, almost 22 seconds. So technically 27 minutes and 22 seconds, but you can just leave it like this. That's fine. So again, you pick some places where you want to go, measure it with your centimeter ruler. You get your centimeters, you convert that into feet using your equivalent ratios. Then you convert those feet into miles using your equivalent ratios. And then you convert those miles into minutes using the equivalent ratios. All right. Good luck with your secret mission.